Protein pudding, protein bars, protein balls. Pause. Protein yogurt, protein chips, protein bread, which looks like it could give somebody a concussion if you throw it at their head. Fitness is on the rise, and corporations have clearly noticed. Except there is one problem with these products. More like 3 problems. 1. They're not that cheap. There is no bang for your buck. 2. The macros on them suck. Take these protein balls, for example. The package clearly says protein balls. Even on the back, it says lots of protein in German. But the whole thing, 12.5 grams of protein in total, maybe 13 grams. And 3, most of the time, they don't even taste good. So we just give up on them, right? Or we continue watching my video, where I test 3 different homemade protein desserts from 3 different creators. And at the end of each recipe, I will also rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, based on not only taste, but also macros and how easy it is to make. Yeah, I think that was the intro. Should we start? The first recipe comes from Felu, one of my favorite fitness cooking channels. I like his recipes mostly for their out-of-the-box thinking, as he does get quite creative with them. For this video, I chose his protein cheesecake because I really like cheesecake. For my birthday this year, my girlfriend baked me a cheesecake, and I ate half of it in one sitting, consequently giving myself diarrhea the next day. So for this recipe, you're going to need 200 grams of cream cheese, 200 grams of low-fat Greek yogurt, a scoop of protein powder, and 1 egg, preferably from a chicken. Do keep in mind that all of this is a base, so you can add anything to it based on your taste. For all I care, you can throw in beef jerky in there. I won't judge you. Step 1. Take out a big bowl and dump all of your ingredients in there. Unfortunately, that's all there is to it. However, I'll just continue talking about something else here while I dump all of the ingredients in that bowl. Like that new Kendrick Lamar album, which I thought was pretty good.
But in general, I think that's all of the text on the algorithm mix.
Once you have all of the ingredients in that bowl, you want to start mixing it all together. This is a true forearm workout, so make sure to be patient because eventually it'll look like this. Afterwards, just take out any form you can use for baking purposes and wrap it with some baking sheet or sheets, I don't know. Dump your cheesecake mixture into the container and then feel free to add any extras you want. I decided to use blueberries because to me they always look visually appealing, and with any fitness meal, looks are pretty much 80% of the deal. It doesn't really have to taste good. It just has to look good and have enough protein. Place your container in a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius and let it bake for 30 minutes or something. In the video, he mentioned that once the sides start cracking, then it's mostly done, but a toothpick test should be done too. Mine took about 30 minutes as well. I didn't really have a toothpick, but I'm an empath, so I could sense that the cheesecake was actually done. Afterwards, you are supposed to let it sit in the fridge for at least 4 hours, preferably overnight. Me personally, I don't like to take any chances, so I let it sit in the fridge for 2 days. Not on purpose, I was just busy the day after with adult responsibilities. I garnished half a slice with more blueberries for thumbnail purposes and decided it was now or never. And to be honest, taste-wise, not for me. It felt kind of dry, and the taste of my protein powder was pretty overpowering. The blueberries added a nice touch, however. On the other hand, the macros on this cheesecake, pretty solid, with around 33 grams of protein and perhaps 230 to 260 calories in total. Macros like this kind of make up for the taste, and especially considering how easy it was to make. So whilst on the taste end it wasn't the best, effort and macros make up for that in my opinion. With all that being said, I would give this a total of 6.5 out of 10 and will probably not return to it myself. If you're gonna make this, feel free to get creative with the toppings and extras, as in my opinion they will be very important here.
I want to oil you up. What the fuck does that mean?
This next recipe comes from someone I'd like to oil up myself. Noel, if by some miracle you end up watching this, please bro, just once. It's a protein cookie dough and it's much harder than the last one, so stick with me for a bit. You're gonna need 3 ingredients, and it's 15 grams of peanut butter, a tablespoon or 20 grams of maple syrup, a scoop of whey protein, and optionally some chocolate chips. The first step is mixing the peanut butter and the maple syrup together until combined. Quick disclaimer, in his video he used a sugar-free maple syrup. I didn't have sugar-free maple syrup. Anyways, I mixed those together and I'm already skeptical, as there is no way this is enough for an entire scoop of protein. This looks like somebody else's leftovers. It is the saddest thing ever. Have you guys ever made a late night snack, ate like 95% of it, and then you went to bed without cleaning up? When you wake up, this is what that bowl looks like. But it's whatever. I'm here to follow the recipe and trust the process. So I just dumped in the scoop of protein powder, and perhaps 20% of it mixed in with the peanut butter and maple syrup. The other 80% remained untouched. Clearly something isn't right here, and my theory is that the misunderstanding is probably from using a scoop as a unit of measurement. I've bought bags of protein where the scoop is 10 grams, and I've bought bags of protein where the scoop is 30 grams. But it's okay, shit happens. I decided to fuck it, we ball this and add another 15 grams of peanut butter and a tablespoon of maple syrup just to balance things up. It took a long time of mixing, but eventually it started resembling cookie dough if you loosen up the term cookie dough a lot. The final step, and it's optional, is adding in 15 grams of some chocolate chips. And I'll cut to the chase. Visually speaking, this does not look great, but tastefully speaking, this is splendid. Clearly the macros got a slight bump after doubling the peanut butter and not using sugar-free maple syrup, and also doubling the maple syrup, but our total calories is this. With all that being said, I'd probably put this at an 8. The taste is amazing, it is super easy to make, and whilst the macros aren't really perfect per se, I still think it's an amazing snack to have like in the midday or something. Hey, it's me. Couldn't find good background music for this part. Are you still watching this? This next recipe comes from somebody who has been on my YouTube recommended for a while. All of his recipes kind of looked amazing to me, but I just never got around to doing any of them. Big fat disclaimer though. Exercise for Cheat Meals has specifically noted in his video that this recipe should be followed meticulously, and that if you're not going to do that, you should not bother with it anyway. Unfortunately, I did a few mistakes when it comes to both ingredients and how much of the ingredients. Either way, what I'm trying to say is I do not want this attempt nor my rating towards the end to be a reflection of his actual recipe, but perhaps a representation of if whether or not you can get away with switching up some of the ingredients. Anyways, focus up. You're going to need ingredients. A lot of them. 480 grams of ice, 130 grams of milk, 120 grams fat-free Greek yogurt, 4.2 grams vanilla extract, 7 grams of vanilla jello, I used pudding instead, 3 grams of xanthan gum, whatever the hell that is, 42 grams of casein, he recommended cookies and cream flavor, I used vanilla, 30 grams of Swerve, I used erythritol instead, 10 grams of black cocoa powder, I used Dutch cocoa instead, and some Oreos. So the first step is crushing the 480 grams of ice in your blender. Immediately, I had realized I set myself up for failure because I did not have enough ice. But I'm kind of quick on my feet, so I just decided to have the recipe as a whole and continue with 240 grams of ice. I can't remember the amount of times where I actually said this and it hasn't worked out, but I don't learn, so we're doing it. Blend the ice up a few times until it's crushed, making sure to mix it up a few times. And once your ice is fully crushed, you want to start with the first set of ingredients. Since we have the recipe, we're going to go with 65 grams of milk, 60 grams of fat-free Greek yogurt, 2 grams of vanilla extract, and some salt. Give it another minute of blending, making sure all the ingredients are well incorporated. Scrape down the sides one time, and then blend it once more. Once it's well blended, we're going to go in with a second round of ingredients. This time we're using 4 grams of our vanilla pudding, 1.5 grams of xanthan gum, 21 grams of casein powder, 15 grams of erythritol, 5 grams of cocoa powder, and some Oreos. All of them. This ingredient, we're not gonna have it. I'm gonna go back to blending all of the ingredients once more, scraping down the sides multiple times. And since I was very excited for this recipe, I didn't really want to hesitate. I immediately went for a big spoonful, which turned out to be a big mistake.
Shit.
Because this Oreo McFlurry tastes big bad. I went back in for multiple spoonfuls because I just could not believe that this combination of innocent ingredients could make something taste this bad. It's like all these ingredients just brought out the worst in each other, kind of like my distant family relatives. On paper, it looks amazing. I mean, if looks could kill, then this must be Jeffrey Dahmer. I'll cut to the chase. Final score is a not edible out of 10, as I immediately tossed the whole thing into the trash can after pressing the stop record button. At the end of the day, I'd say my findings seem kind of realistic, as I have found a recipe that tastes really good for me, a recipe that tastes just fine, and a recipe that I would never ever touch again, unless I have all the right ingredients. Keep in mind, at the end of the day, all of this is subjective. Discover what works best for you, and who knows, maybe you'll find a 10 out of 10. With that being said, I don't want to make this too long. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it plenty. Much love, and I'm gonna go grocery shopping.